Welcome to the very special morning edition of the 2020 Awards. Today we're going to be talking with filmmaker Ryan Worsley over breakfast about The Breakfast Club.
What is going to happen to us on Monday when we're all together again? I mean, I consider you guys my friends. I'm not wrong, am I?
No.
So on Monday, what happens?
Are we still friends, you mean? We're friends now, that is.
Yeah.
Do you want the truth?
Yeah, I want the truth.
I don't think so.
Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thanks, Kris. It's good to be here.
Again. We had a little technical issue, so we're trying this again. So before we get into The Breakfast Club, you've got your first film that you directed premiering at the Seattle International Film Festival this week. And what are the screening times?
That's right, Kris. It's called Raising the Bar. And it's playing at the Uptown on Lower Queen Anne on May 20th and 27th at 9 o'clock p.m.
Okay. And it's spelled, we should point out, it's spelled R-A-Z-I-N-G.
That's correct. It's a pun.
What is this? That's good.
It's R-A-Z, raising the bar.
And I hear it's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's a documentary about the Funhouse, which is a punk rock venue, was a punk rock venue in Seattle Center.
What happened to it?
It has been raised to make way for condominiums.
For condom. It's been raised
for
to make
condoms. No, there were condoms there long before.
That's true, I guess.
Condominiums.
Yeah. What, I hear the editing is spectacular.
The editing is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's the best editing.
Who's the editor on that?
The editor of that was Kristensen.
That's funny. That's my name.
I know.
Yeah, that's weird. Okay. Confession. Ryan directed a movie that I was the editor on, and it's playing at SIFF. But it's I don't always say this about my work, but it's a really great movie. I'm very proud and very happy to have worked on the film. So
Cool.
Thanks for the experience.
You're welcome.
Yeah. What inspired you to make that?
What inspired me to make it? Well, I had been going to the Funhouse and shooting video there, and I heard that it was closing, and a lot of people were telling stories about it, so I thought it could be a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really am excited about the movie is that it is more than just, you don't need to be a punk rock fan.
No, you definitely don't have to be a punk
I mean,
rock.
I think it sort of, if you've ever had a dream.
If you've ever had a dream. I don't remember how the rest of that goes. If you've ever had a dream. It's better to follow your dream than just kind of wait for something to happen to you. I think it's like you can't be afraid of failing.
Right.
Well, you better just try. Otherwise, you're just going to wind up doing nothing with
Right.
your whole entire life. So this is about a whole lot of people that basically took a chance and put themselves out there and started a whole lot of neat things. And yeah, it's not just about punk rock. It's about, it's really not even about punk rock at all.
It's not at all.
It's not even about music at all. It's really just about starting something and not being afraid.
Yeah. Good. Cool. Well, I hope everybody goes and checks that out. So speaking of inspirations, I asked you to pick a movie that has kind of been inspiration in your life, something kind of influential, and you brought up The Breakfast Club. I know you very well. Mm-hmm. I've heard you mention this movie a few times in passing, not a whole lot. So right. I was kind of surprised by it. But then I realized you tend to like stuff about misfits.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah. So it's like Party Down is a show you really like.
True.
It's a bunch of misfits. And Harold and Maude's another one of your favorites.
Misfits,
and
true.
You tend to like stuff about
Rocky
misfits.
Horror Picture Show.
Yeah. And so it was like watching this, I was like, oh, this kind of makes sense now.
I'd never thought about that.
Yeah. As I was watching it, I hadn't seen this movie since it originally came out. John Hughes film. Basically, it's a story of these 5 high school kids from disparate upbringings that are given a Saturday detention, and they're forced to sit in this room together and think about what they've done. Mm-hmm. And during this. They kind of get to know each other, and the barriers between them slowly come down, and they realize, yeah, we're kind of all the same. Mm-hmm. We're the same thing.
Right.
So it was fun to watch it again.
Good.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I think there's a couple of like dopey scenes in it, but it was made in the 80s, so it's like there's bound to be some dopey stuff in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's some really good stuff in there. Which character are you?
Oh, which character? I've always been told I'm the basket case.
The Ali Sheedy character?
Ali Sheedy. Oh, yeah. Every single time.
That's what I figured.
And like completely unprovoked, not when asked that question.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, you know what? You remind me of the basket case from The Breakfast Club. And I don't relate to her at all.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah.
So I don't really know where that comes from, but that's fine.
So who do you relate to?
I don't really relate to any of them necessarily. I mean, you're supposed to relate to all of them in one small way.
Yeah.
So
it's funny because as the film went on, I kind of felt myself, like when it started, I was like, oh, that's kind of me. And that's a little bit of that's me. And then by the end, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm all of these people.
This is one of the reasons that I actually really like this movie is that there isn't sort of one outstanding character. They're kind of all assholes in one way or another. And they all have redeeming qualities, and they all are kind of assholes. And, like, none of them is the good guy.
Right.
Which... Except for the janitor, I guess. I guess the janitor is the good
guy. Right, yeah. So there's an interesting subplot, I guess, between the principal played by Paul Gleason.
There's the kind of angel and devil kind of this thing, you know. But all the characters there's no good guy, you know. They're all kind of jerks, and they all have these shining moments.
Misfits, if you will.
Misfits, if you will.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I think I really like about it. It's not a hero thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things I really liked was... very clearly the characters are very well defined from the get-go.
Oh, yeah. They're stereotypes.
Like, they are but I wouldn't say they're stereotypes. I feel like they're just, I don't know. I mean,
to me, they were stereotypes, because they were basically summed up in a word or two and shown with a picture. And so, at the very beginning of the movie, they have sort of the different areas.
Well, there's some narration.
There's some narration, which is
we find out is the letter that
writing a paper.
Anthony Michael Hall writes to the principal.
Who do you think you are? Yeah. So. But there's like one picture kind of within the same school. Let me back up a little bit. So. This was sort of the first movie that I ever thought about filmmaking because it's one location and 7 people total with almost no extras, you know. Yeah. So and they don't really move.
Right.
They just sit there and so just like the idea that it's all happening within this one little place. It's I was thinking about actually making this film would be incredibly easy, but it's incredibly hard to think about a film that only takes place in one location.
One location
with 5 or
finite characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So without having it be a total.
Is that something that appeals to you? This idea of a single location and.
Yeah, it does actually. Mostly just logistically.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I don't know. It's I guess if you can do a painting that's all red. And it's not ironic or stupid, then it's like, for example, Rothko, does these color-filled paintings. And when you see them, you're not like, oh, look, that's a red canvas. It's there's something really emotional about it, you know?
Yeah.
But it's so simple. So to me, that shows some kind of an understanding.
Right.
Where, nowadays you get these movies with a gazillion people, most of them computer generated, and waves of great fire and crashing with wizards and dwarves, and it's I have nothing to think about this,
Right. Yeah.
It's just
you don't get to know any of the characters.
It's just there's no emotion though.
Yeah.
And so the idea of you simplify and simplify and simplify, and then but you have the emotion, then I think that's really amazing.
There's a great moment in the film. Kind of towards the end of the second act or beginning of the third act where they finally are sitting in a circle and they start to kind of confess how each of them has their own set of troubles.
Right.
And it's a really tender moment, and it's you really start to empathize for these people and there's a great bit with Emilio Estevez where he plays the jock and he's in detention because he had taken some duct tape and taped some nerds' butt cheeks together. And he breaks down because his dad, he was trying to impress his dad
Right.
who also is a jock. And he says, he has this great moment where he says, like, all I can think about is like the humiliation this kid must face when he had to go home and tell his dad what happened to him. And it's like, that was some pretty like heavy stuff, like emotionally, like, and you weren't expecting that at the beginning of the movie, like that these kids were going into territory like that. Like, it feels like it's going to be like a fun teenage, kind of like almost not a rom-com, but just just kind of light.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the neat thing is that I liked about the way that it plays out too is that while it is kind of tidy, it's still like, for example, when Emilio Estevez does break down and it's like this great moment, then Anthony Michael Hall kind of goes like, yeah, that's kind of like me.
Right.
But it doesn't turn into one of those moments. Instead, it turns into like, what's wrong with you? Like he says, I'm terrible because I'm failing shop, and he winds up insulting the
Judd Nelson character, right?
And then they get into a yelling match. So it's not like, oh, let's all share our feelings and now bond.
Right.
It's like, it still has that sort of like, I still don't respect you.
Right.
I still don't. I still think you're because it's like. Everyone, that's kind of, I think that's Anthony Michael Hall's asshole moment. And I have to say that seeing this again, I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I thought Anthony Michael Hall did like the most amazing job.
He's great.
I thought he was
he's great.
The best in the whole movie.
Yeah.
He had this kind of like simpering kind of wimpy thing going on, but he kind of, but he was really wanting to, you could see that he was really wanting to interact with everybody.
Yeah,
and it was just this very subtle sort of a thing. You know?
No, I thought there was a lot of really nice moments throughout it like that, and it's the first thing that really cracked me up. There's a moment where Judd Nelson, like, who's the criminal, right? He's like the shop kid or whatever, the heavy metal kid,
the metal guy or whatever.
But there's it's like and he's just like anti-authoritarian, and
right.
The principal comes in and it's like laying down the rules at the beginning of the movie, and he throws his head back and hawks a loogie up in the air and tries to catch it in his mouth. Yeah. It was just like, but it was funny. It was stuff like that. And just from a technical standpoint, like going back to these characters, I thought the costumes were great because they really, I find myself more and more as I watch films that are well crafted. To me, like, it's always kind of hard to tell if a costume is good or not.
Right.
Like it's if it looks like, if you're not noticing it,
right,
it's doing its job, right? As opposed to like something that's maybe a Victorian epic or a sci-fi where it's blatant and it's obvious and so the thing that it's kind of, for me, it's hard to judge like whether or not I think costumes are well done, but I'm really kind of getting into this thing where it's like silhouettes. So it's like, you can like look at this character silhouette and identify who they are.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
And so it's like, Anthony Michael Hall looked like the nerd.
Yeah.
There's a great detail. His watch, I don't know if you noticed his watch.
I didn't notice his watch.
It's like a calculator watch.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I did notice like Ali Sheedy's shoes are just disgustingly, dirty.
Right, yeah.
Which is really awesome. And like that was the other thing I noticed was that all their clothes were very worn. It looked like they'd all been wearing them, even, the princess things. It was like her boots were really worn. And it was like, all right, these are kids or not. They didn't just put on their, the costumes didn't have like ironed pleats or
right. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But no, that's very true.
The other thing I thought was like, great cast. I mean, we talked about Anthony Michael Hall, but it's just like these people felt like real high school kids, as opposed to the movies you watch today.
Well, so
everybody looks like a model. Apparently, they're models. Apparently, their school's just full of models everywhere.
I mean, it's totally unrealistic.
Excuse me, I'm gonna have some more coffee. Would you like some?
Yes, I would, please.
Okay.
We are having breakfast. You should have put that in the mic. It sounds pretty neat.
Yeah, here.
Plorp. But one of the first things I noticed was that each of them sits down in a different way, like when they first enter the library and sit down. And the neat thing is, so they're not supposed to really, none of them are supposed to really know each other. But you have this assumption that maybe the prom queen and the athlete might run in the same circles.
Right.
But they don't sit next to each other. They sit at the same table, but Emilio Estevez walks up and kind of asks if he can sit at this table.
Okay.
She's kind of like, I guess, I don't care, you know. And, Judd Nelson comes in and puts 2 chairs together and lounges down.
Right.
Anthony Michael Hall sits down and kind of, very, very straight. And then Ali Sheedy walks into the back, turns around and
right,
walks down
right, yeah.
And faces away.
Yeah.
And it's just that and that alone, they haven't even said anything, but you kind of
Right,
get what
yeah.
it's going to be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and again, I think that kind of goes back to the silhouettes of the clothes, right? It's sort of very distinct instantly. And yeah, I thought that was cool. Those characters sure are a bunch of misfits.
They are.
And if you're looking to find some other misfits, you might want to check out the 2-Bit Saloon, located in Seattle's Ballard neighborhood. They offer live music and daily drink specials, including $5 pitchers on Thirsty Thursdays. Open daily from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. Visit the2bitsaloon.com for more info.
You took a teaching position because you thought it'd be fun, right? Thought you could have summer vacations off? And then you found out it was actually work. That really bummed you out.
These kids turned on me. They think I'm a big joke.
Come on. Listen, Vern, if you were 16, what would you think of you, huh?
Hey, Carl, you think I give one rat's ass what these kids think of me?
Yes, I do.
So one of the things that I also really enjoyed was that there was kind of this, they're like a bunch of dogs at the beginning of the film,
right.
sniffing each other out,
right.
who's going to be the alpha and whatnot.
Yeah.
And Judd Nelson clearly is the alpha, and they all hate him.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're being a jerk. Nobody likes him. But what was great was that finally he goes over, because what's happening is they're staying in the library and the principal is across the hall from them, so he can kind of keep his eye on them. And the principal goes to the restroom, and then Judd goes over and takes a screw out of the door so it won't stay open. Mm-hmm. And what was really funny, I thought, was how suddenly they were all conspirators together.
Right.
And it was sort of like...
Nobody turns him in.
Right.
Everyone knows it was him. They all hate him, but,
but
for the first time, they don't turn him in.
Right. And so, suddenly it's you start to see, the walls between them start to erode because kind of there's a common enemy outside. And
right.
It's and I thought that was a really great touch. Because I remember I was wait, that door somehow closes. I can't remember why they would close the door, they wouldn't get away with that. But then I was oh, that's right. And it's a really nice device to get the door closed, but also to bring the characters closer together. So
right, yeah.
I thought that was really great. Paul Gleason, who plays the principal, was so funny.
He was so good.
And he's been in a ton of these. He
Yeah.
kind of plays the same character a lot, especially in the 80s. He's the jackass authority figure, should be at the yacht club or whatever.
Right.
But he's got this great bit where he's the whole, mess with the bull, you get the horns. But the way he was holding his hands, he's holding his hands so that, he points with his index finger and his pinky. So he points with the devil horns.
The devil horns, okay.
Yeah. And I was oh, that was a great touch from the actor. I think, I don't know. There's just a lot of little stuff like that. There's a really great production design detail about him, which I don't know if you picked up, but in his office, he's got a tool calendar behind him. And
I didn't see that, no.
Yeah, he's got this tool calendar behind him, and it's for rigid tools. And it's it's a comment on who he is. He's a rigid tool,
The thing I noticed the most about one of my favorite moments in the whole movie is when he's sitting there with his lunch and he drops this coffee on his sandwich and it's the most disgusting thing. And he starts mumbling as he's walking down the street he's coffee. It's dragged out of the Mississippi River.
Yeah, it's oil sludge or something like that.
It does look like that. And it's
yeah.
I don't know if that was ad-libbed or not, but I love that.
There's another funny thing that I thought he had, he acts like he's above it all.
Right.
He acts like he's this, guy that's seen it all and done it all. But he's no better than them. And there's this great bit where they cut to him in his office and you think he's working on, fancy schoolwork or something, trying to, prep schedules or look at grades or something like that. And he's constructed this stupid sculpture out of a styrofoam cup and pencils, and it's just spinning on his desk he's just as bored as they are. And
yeah, exactly. And he hasn't really done anything with his life, and that's where the janitor, I think, comes in and says, you know, they have this little conversation about like what did you want to do when you were a kid? Like there's this whole like these kids are different. They don't have any qualities. They're not doing anything. What did you want to be when you grew up? And the janitor says, I wanted to be John Lennon. Right. And that's true. That's how it is. Like when you're a kid, you that doesn't necessarily have to go away or not. But
well, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
Oh, I mean, it would have always changed, I think, for me. But I don't know. I can't even remember. I think I wanted, to own a mountain or something, like a nature
own
preserve.
A mountain?
Yeah, like to do like a nature preserve thing or something. I don't know. You probably always wanted to be a filmmaker.
I want to be a veterinarian.
Oh,
and then I realized I couldn't save every animal. And then I was like, I'll just make movies instead. Yeah. Much easier.
Than being a vet. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
The only thing I remember about this movie was there's a scene at the beginning and they have everybody like working on their papers, and then you see Ali Sheedy has drawn a really great illustration of like a country road or something, and then she like scratches her scalp and creates snow on it with her dandruff. Yeah.
She had some really great bits, and she actually did such a good job of playing that character. Like when she, one of my favorite scenes, and it's just kind of obvious, but it's neat, is when they all eat their lunches. And she's like, she gets this sandwich and she throws the pimento loaf. Hits the sculpture. Yeah. And then she takes the Captain Crunch and the what do you call those?
Pixie sticks.
And makes
like this giant sugar sandwich.
And the rest of them, all just turn around and like gape at like this, right. monstrosity.
But even the lunches were great because
the lunches were great.
Because you got like
sushi and
what's her name? The princess brings out sushi, a bento box with sushi with a complete soy sauce, like intricate little glassware.
And at the time, nobody ate sushi, so it was really weird. Like you didn't even know what it was. Really. And then Emilio Estevez, the jock's got this giant, massive lunch with like 6 sandwiches.
Yeah. And then Judd Nelson, who's the bully,
has no lunch. He
just decides like, I want the nerds' lunch.
Yeah, and it's PB&J with the crust cut off, and yeah.
But I just thought there was a lot of great details like that. John Hughes, I think he kind of gets overlooked for making, he makes kids films.
He made high school movies, and there was something about like the John Hughes high school movie. Right. But I think the reason for that is just because I think still is one of the very few people that has been able to make high school movies about people and not.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I mean, they're really honest.
Yeah.
I feel like they're really honest. And it's like, I don't know. There's just something about them that's like, there's something in every situation that's kind of like, oh, I know that moment.
Yeah.
There's some truth to it.
The thing I like about high school movies, too, is that was a time when things are very intense and you're forming as a person because you have to defend yourself, in public, really, for the first time. Your parents kind of aren't going to be able to come to your aid. And if they do, then you're just a wuss or whatever. So it's like the first time where you have to, like, be in society, and it's a really dog eat dog kind of a thing, and horrible, is where all your horrible things happen to you.
Yeah, high school sucks.
High school's like the worst, and so there's something about those movies that I really gravitate towards, even the terrible ones. Even today with all the terrible, I'll still watch them because there's something about that's still very fascinating to me.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, there's a great bit because. So, we talked about how they all kind of become conspirators when Judd Nelson takes the door and closes it. But then there's another bit later on where they sneak out.
Right.
And they're going down the hall. Again, the principal has like gone to the restroom or something, and they end up going for a walk.
But they don't know where or why or what. They're just following. They just all go for some reason.
Yeah. And I was like, what the hell is this scene doing in here? Mm-hmm. But then I realized, like, there's an earlier scene where the principal comes in and they're all sitting around whistling the music from Bridge on the River Kwai. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, that's a cute little reference. Like it's like a prison camp that they're in. And then, they end up going on this walk later and they're heading back and they realize like, oh no, there's no way they can get back in without the principal seeing them, and they're all
trapped. Yeah,
they're all screwed. And so Judd Nelson ends up.
He takes the fall.
He takes the fall
for the rest of them.
Yeah, and so he like runs around the school making all this noise to get the principal to come after him so that they can all go back in there. And the thing I noticed was as he's running down the hall, one of the things he's doing is he's singing, "I want to be an airborne ranger."
Air Force Ranger.
Yeah. And it's that, and it's that kind of military, like leave no man behind kind of psychology. And suddenly, like now they're like starting to become this tribe almost.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing, I thought. Like
that was a neat moment too, because he is just a real asshole to all of them.
Yeah, he's a dick.
A real total, and he continues to be a dick throughout the whole movie. Yeah. But there is that once you've done that, it's sort of like, well, you have this gratitude in with it that's always gonna be a part of it. It's
right,
like,
and it's also sort of like, I mean, in a way, I mean, he's the one who makes the sacrifice, and so it's like for all of the princess and the jock and all, all of their sort of like great qualities, quote unquote, he's the one who's the real deal.
Right. Right.
And I just thought it was a really cool moment. And
yeah.
It was just like,
but then, so the reason, of course, they go on this outing is to pick up his weed, right? Which is kind of neat, that this movie, first of all, is rated R, so kids can't go see it. Yeah, it's rated R, partly for the weed, and so. When they,
so weird.
But he thought it was important enough for them to all get high together, and so like he puts it in, Anthony Michael Hall's pants.
Yeah.
And
to hide it.
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite jokes actually, is when he's, what if your dope was on fire? And he's like, it's impossible. It's in Johnson's underwear. Right. It's one of my favorite lines.
And it's also the moment where he's like, I will not be made a fool of. And then he turns around and he's got the toilet paper the thing hanging out of his pants. Yeah.
Yeah. But so the weed smoking thing is also that there's a great. This is the first time the Emilio Estevez character thing that makes it work, is because when he goes to smoke the weed, the princess decides, oh, I'm going to try that. And then even, Anthony Michael Hall is the second guy. He's like, yeah, let's go try it. Yeah. And then you see that, the Emilio Estevez character, he doesn't want to do it, but he's going to do it because everyone else is doing it.
Right.
And that's when you see also Ali Sheedy notice this.
Right.
Where later on they find out, that he does everything that.
And she calls him on it.
And she calls him on it.
And that's the whole. People
and that's what the whole. My dad wants me to tape this guy's buns together, and I didn't want to do it, and I don't want to wrestle, and I don't want to do any of the stuff that's happening to me, kind of a thing. So that was that was the first time. It was like, all right, this makes this work.
Right. Yeah. No, I thought that it was fun to go back and watch it again.
Yeah.
I think, to me there's like two awful moments in it, which is...
There's a couple awful moments
where
in it.
Emilio Estevez starts dancing and doing flips after he gets high.
So weird, I know. And it's funny,
like his weed, it's not cocaine.
The funny thing is, too, is ordinarily I love all the John Hughes music. Mm-hmm. And this, I hated all the music. And, And that's one thing I pick out of any movie, is whether or not the music is good or bad.
Yeah.
And I think if I, had just seen this last week, if it's for the first time, I would have been, it's good, but the music is so cheesy.
Yeah.
Like there's like this guitar riff anytime anything's intense. It's like, ba-da, ba-da. It's like I could have really done without all that stuff.
Yeah.
It would have been way better if it had just been silence, except for the couple of songs,
Right. Yeah. And then there's the film ends with detention being over.
Right.
And the other cheesy moment was just like, Molly Ringwald gives Ali Sheedy this makeover. And,
oh, yeah.
Like somehow she has a whole other wardrobe.
Right.
that she brought with her to school that day.
Right.
And it's just like, she becomes, the ugly duckling who becomes
the swan.
And
yeah.
it's just like, I kind of liked her better before.
I should say, the girls in this movie are kind of not too... They are supposed to be stereotypes, and the guys are not particularly much better. But the fact is, the girls wind up with the guys. Really, they should have... That just doesn't... It's just silly. Like, of course, now they're all dating. And it's like, I don't know, that's really kind of silly.
Although, I will say, there's two nice moments. And one is like... So, Ali Sheedy ends up with Emilio Estevez, and she's a kleptomaniac.
Right.
And as she's leaving, she steals his... Or she doesn't steal, but she rips off... His patch from his leather jacket. Yeah.
The other thing is when she gets her makeover, and you sort of see her face for the first time, I gotta say, like, she still did an awesome job of just looking really strange and like looking creepy. It's strange.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is definitely still the same character. She's not just suddenly like all, done up and doll-like, and now she's a different person.
But there's a really nice moment between her and Anthony Michael Hall where like he's looking at her and she's like gives him this like stare of like what, and then he's like, you look great, or something. He says something. He pays her a compliment, and it's this little whisper. She's just like, thank you. It was really nice. It was like, all right, that was good.
Like, I'm gonna beat you or beat you to death, and now it's like, okay, maybe not.
Yeah. And then and the other thing is like, at the end, Molly Ringwald ends up with Judd Nelson, and there's actually a great bit because she like wants to like rage against her parents, and she finds him in his detention because he's been sequestered away, although he sneaks out, but he's been sequestered away, and she goes to find him, and he says something to her like, wouldn't I be like the ultimate revenge on your parents?
Well, it's a lot of people give that particular thing, he's a total dick throughout the whole movie, and of course it's like, why would she be attracted to this complete and total dick? And that does happen. But the nice thing is, it's not like out of the blue, or because he's like, as soon as they sit down, she's like, what's your name? She really like is pure interested in him, basically. So it's not like, this guy's an asshole, I must really, really like him. It's more of, to me, I got like that it's more like her kind of, she's the princess. She wants to one-up this guy a little bit. And so like him being this king, I think she's kind of like, I'm going to try and get that thing, Oh,
that's interesting. Because what I was seeing was there's that moment where they're all making confessions, and she's kind of been the prude throughout the whole thing. Like, they've questioned her virginity, and she gets upset about it. And, but then, like, she has this trick that she can do. Oh, yeah. Which is like, she puts her lipstick between her boobs and she can apply lipstick. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's really funny because, here she's the prude, but that's like, like a stripper trick or something. I was like, oh, wait a minute. She's not as prudish as she has been sort of portrayed to be. So it was like, kind of made sense that she was interested in the bad boy. And
yeah, but I mean, that was like from the very, very beginning. You just you see. Like,
but that's what I mean. Like the whole movie. I mean, I think John Hughes is a great writer. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like some of his stuff maybe sort of seem very shallow and surfacey, but he's really good at setting stuff up. And what I was going to say is, at the end, she gives him her diamond earring, but what's nice about it is, earlier in the film, he's just given her shit about it, and he's like, are those real diamonds?
Did you pay for the money?
Yeah. And so it's like, it's not like if she had just pulled the earring out and given it to him, it would have meant nothing. But because they had gone to the trouble of setting that up, it has some value to him and to her, and they know it means something to, and it's a nice visual, some symbolism of like, no, here's something that we have in common that I'm now giving to I'm giving you part of me. So, And so as cheesy as like, oh, she hooks up with him and the other guys hook up together, at least there's connective tissue there that like makes it kind of work. So anyway.
And the other little tiny detail that I noticed, is just the cars. They had the perfect cars.
Oh, right, yeah.
For the parents, even Anthony Michael Hall's, for some reason, his mom and his sister are like in the front seat with him, and like the license plate says EMC squared or EMC2.
Oh.
And it's like a brown Buick, and Ali Sheedy's car is like it's like some kind of like Chrysler blue, like fancy sort of town and country kind of suburbia car, and like she obviously she gets out of the back seat, and Emilio Estevez has got, of course, a brown Bronco, Bronco too, and then the BMW for the princess,
and then Judd Nelson just walks. He walks.
He just walks in. Yeah.
No, I thought there was a lot of nice details in it, so good call. Thanks for bringing it up.
Good call.
All hail the Misfits. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for sitting down with us.
It was a pleasure, Kris.
Raising the Bar screens Tuesday, May 20th and May 27th, 9 o'clock at the Uptown Cinema. You can get your tickets at the door or through Seattle International Film Festival's website. And thanks again to our sponsor, the 2-Bit Saloon. Visit them at the2bitsaloon.com. And I think that's it.
Sweet.
Until next time, remember, it's never too late to start thinking about the past.